Welcome to the SBCA podcast, Component Connection, where we explore the people, ideas, trends, and innovations shaping the market and the future of structural building components. Whether you're on the shop floor, in the office, in the yard, or out in the field, we're glad you're here.
Hello, welcome to the SBCA podcast, Component Connection, where we explore the people, ideas, trends, and innovations shaping the structural framing industry. Regardless of how you touch this industry, we're glad you're here. My name is Abby Langenberg, Director of Business Development for SBCA, and I'll be your host for this episode. I'm joined by Jess Lose, Executive Director of SBCA, to talk about our show floor for BCMC 2025 in Omaha, Nebraska. Welcome, Jess.
Yes, you brought me back again. I don't know if you really had a choice in that, but here we are once again. I'm very happy to be here if you can't tell.
I am so excited you're here to talk about this show floor because we have over 70,000 square feet of show floor space this year, featuring over 120 exhibitors, and we have 20 first-time exhibitors that are bringing some new tech and tools to our industry. So we've got a lot to kind of unpack and explore, and it could be hard to know where to start, right? Especially when you're maybe visiting the show for the first time. And I'm glad you're here to kind of give us that perspective with your experience of turning that show floor into something that's going to be really special. So just some basic first-timer advice for any attendees, Jess?
Well, obviously, wear comfortable shoes. It's function over form, probably at conferences like this. And, my trick is I try to have different shoes. That way, things are hitting on my feet a little bit different each day or even throughout the day. But beyond that, for our show specifically, BCMC, I would say be patient. That, the couple of days of show floor space is going to be plenty of time. And you'll be able to see everything. You don't need to rush. But make sure if you're having a conversation, fully engage and make sure that you're just developing those relationships and getting what you need. And if there's somebody specific or booth that you have 2, 3, 5 people deep, don't worry about that, especially on Wednesday morning. Come back and really Thursday afternoon, if there's anybody that you want to talk to, they're going to be looking for people to talk to at the booth. So make sure you come back, but also engage the whole time. I think a lot of people make that mistake, like, oh, I'm just going to be there for the first few minutes of the first day and then I'm done, or I couldn't get what I wanted. They get frustrated. So make sure that you stick on the show floor as much as possible, even if it's to see things 2, 3 times, because you might miss it. You might be looking left when something that you were really interested in was on the right as you went up and down different aisles. But make sure you spend a lot of time there. And that's the best way to make sure that you're going to get everything you wanted to see. And then the other things that you didn't even know existed, to make sure that you're able to see those as well.
So we've got over 35 companies that are bringing equipment to display and demonstrate on the show floor. So what is your advice for attendees? What do you think they're going to be looking for and paying close attention to as they travel the show floor to see these demos and equipment?
There's probably varying degrees of levels of interest. Like there's going to be the curiosity, and that's good. And to know all of the opportunities. So say you're in the market for a new saw. It might not be this year, it might be 2, 3 years, however many years into the future, but get to know all of the different options. And this year, a little behind the scenes, we listened to our exhibitors last year and really went to work on incentivizing machinery and making sure that it was as easy as possible. It's not easy, but as welcoming as possible is probably the best way to say it, for them to bring additional machinery and kind of expand their offerings to make sure that BCMC is first and foremost the place to see machinery for the component industry. I think we were successful in that, especially with the 35 companies bringing machinery. But make sure that you kind of get a feel for what it is and how it operates, But if you're really in the market and you're thinking about, gosh, I need to buy something, I need to do something, make sure that you get to know the ins and outs and talk to several people and, make sure that you can see it and envision it in your location. And there's people to help with that, even at other booths. But it is one of those that, get to know as much of it as you can, see it operate, maybe talk to some people that have it in their plan, and see how they've reacted to it? What are the machinery needs? Is, make sure you got all those met, but also maintenance, and get to understand that. Seeing it is great. And then make sure that you're able to know how it's going to act once you get it up and going in your location. So the varying degrees, but make sure you're really getting to know that piece of machinery because it is a significant investment.
So, what new or returning exhibitors are you personally excited about that are coming to the show this year?
And I think this might be my 20th BCMC. I'm not sure. I should probably figure that out. But you go that many years in a row and you see the things, and some of it feels the same. But the thing that is the same more year in and year out are the people. And that is such an amazing thing to have those relationships and to be able to see them. And you only get a couple minutes with them, especially in this role. You're busy and moving around. And you get to say hi and you hopefully catch up a little bit. But the people is what makes this industry, and the relationships and just knowing people for that long, or in a lot of cases, even longer than 20 years. But it is one of those that, the machinery, and watch for the nuance. And there's not going to be a whole lot of like, oh my God, now we're laser plasma cutting plastic to create roof trusses all of a sudden. There's nothing wild like that. At least I'm not anticipating that. But there are nuances, and that's where the discerning folks that attend year in, year out, they will notice those. And that's the conversations I tend to have afterwards. Like, hey, did you notice this? Or even during BCMC, like, hey, get over there and see what they're doing a little bit different. I think it can make a real difference, because that's what we're looking for as manufacturers, is incremental improvements. How do you get just a little bit better? How do you increase those numbers? Just, those tiny amounts, because those things add up, especially with the repetition that our component manufacturers do day in and day out.
So what advice do you have for somebody who may not have that 20 years of relationship with the exhibitors at BCMC? What advice would you give to them to be able to jump into those conversations and start building those relationships with their suppliers?
I think it starts earlier in the week. I would say engage. If you're in on Monday night, the welcome event, participate in that. The education day on Tuesday, there's going to be suppliers that are presenting Tuesday. There's going to be some regular, just typical CM education, even framer education on Tuesday. And then also the roundtables Tuesday afternoon. I think that's a great way to get to know some people, as far as like, hey, what do you think of that session? I saw that you were in there. Or what are your thoughts on, this or that? Or, the roundtables are perfect for that. So it really sets it up for a great week. But then when it gets to Wednesday and you're walking the show floor, they are there to talk to you, whether or not, you think they like you or not. They more than likely do like you, but it's one of those to just have those conversations, and, they will be engaging. And if they're not, engage them. The thing that drives me nuts about trade shows, and it's not necessarily BCMC, but it's others, the company pays a whole bunch of money, they send their people, and then the person's at the back of their booth with their head in their laptop or in their phone, and they don't want to engage anybody. Like, I love just being like, hey, how you doing? What you selling? What do you, that type of an attitude, and get them back going, because somewhere their boss wishes they were doing that anyway. But don't be afraid to engage people. That's the thing about BCMC, is people are there to talk one way or another. So, it might be a little bit out of comfort zone. I know that is me. I'm not that, person by nature, but it is one that you have to be that person for a couple days, and BCMC is a great opportunity for it. And you get to know some people and, really make that first impression and see what you do, and really get to know, even a handful of people. But you're going to have some people you run into, you recognize, strike up a conversation, and they'll be there to have conversation, and you'll be fine with it.
So as we're looking at, what standout things on the BCMC show floor, one thing is our innovation grant booths that we're going to have. So we are having 5 innovation grant booths this year: Randac, Dusty Robotics, Alpine, Anotic, and Fairbuild. So who are you excited to see, and kind of what do you think attendees will be gaining from visiting the innovation grant booths?
So I think we've successfully kind of brought innovation back into our, not us alone, but it's one of those that we need to highlight it and need to showcase it. And these won't be the only 5 innovations that you see on the show floor, but these are the ones that are celebrated. They wanted to opt in and really highlight specific products. I mean, Alpine is as far as a household name goes for component manufacturers, Alpine is that. They've got some cool things going on with some AI and being able to work with the PDF plan. So, they've got some innovations happening. Dusty, that was one that when I first saw that a couple of years ago, I was like, dang, there's a lot of value there to be had. Maybe not component manufacturers for themselves, but the value that they can input into the Dusty robot and then provide their customers, their installers. Imagine having the blueprint on the floor. I mean, that's things now are lining up properly. And if you could do it based off of the CM software, and I don't know if that's possible, but hopefully they get enough inquiries to where they can make that happen. But that's the cool thing about component manufacturers. Everything they manufacture and send to the field has to work. So it has to work version from their software into the Dusty Robotics, puts it on the show floor, or not on the show floor, the building floor. That really does some pretty cool stuff. And then, the Randeck, the robotic subassembly, trying to see what that's about and getting to know that a little bit. And then Fairbuild, that's a little bit different. That's a little bit more contract-oriented AI. I know the people involved with that, and they're very smart people. So, don't sleep on them. And then the Antique, the glasses, I mean, that feels like something out of Star Trek. So excited for people to really, see what it is all about, but really, make sure you spend some time there, cast your vote, but just, get an idea. And that's what it is. Hopefully it inspires some additional innovations and how do you use it. And that's the cool thing about some of these things. It's very much still early on in the startup. They don't know exactly how their customers are going to use it. That customer feedback, validation of those ideas is huge for those companies too. And that's a part of it too that probably goes a little bit overlooked, but it really helps those companies really form and roll that feedback into it. And it is, it can be challenging for them too to put their stuff out there and, get that honest feedback. That's the cool thing about component manufacturers is they are very honest about what they like and what they don't like.
Definitely. So we are having our People's Choice Innovation Grant recipient. So make sure you cast your vote at BCMC. The voting booth will be in Innovation Alley with all of the Innovation Grant booths right next to each other. So you cannot miss the voting booth. It'll be right there. So in addition to that, we have our industry celebration. Jess, what's your favorite part of industry celebration and why is it there? Why do we put it on for attendees? Why should they go?
Personally, my favorite part of the industry celebration as a producer of BCMC with all of our staff, it means we're almost done. So that's my favorite part about it. But to see people come around and just, more casually have conversations and reflect on what the show, really delivered for them. It's fun to have the games and to see how competitive people are, the beanbag toss. And I think we've had some people that have been really good at participating at beanbag. And, there's some serious activities going on there. But I think we've got a new putting challenge that's going to be new for this year. But really just getting people back to the show floor to close it out the right way. And to try to drive attendance on that show floor for that last hour. And I don't care what show you go to, there's always going to be difficulties with getting people there at the end. And it doesn't matter if it's 5 days or 3 days or 1 day, those last few hours are always a challenge. So this is our answer to that. Plus it just drives that community feel and allows for a few last conversations and really to catch up and really relax a little bit too, as we get towards the end there. So it should be a fun time. I encourage you to attend that. I, really encourage you to work the show hard and meet as many people as you can. Stay on the show floor just because you don't know what opportunity you might miss if you're not there. So it's really cool to end it with that industry celebration and really proud of the work that our staff puts into that. And, really the idea, I don't see that at a lot of other shows that I attend or have heard about. So I think that's pretty unique and make sure you check it out and, register for the games, participate. See if you can't dethrone some of the perennial, finalists for those beanbag toss, but it should be a good time. And, I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully the DJ has got some good music and we're able to give away some awards and some prizes for the winners of the games.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jess, for sharing all of your insights today. And thank you all for listening to SBCA's Component Connection podcast. If you found this episode helpful, you liked it, like and share it with your colleagues and subscribe to Component Connection wherever you get your podcast to stay up to date on our future episodes. And we'll see you on the show floor at BCMC.
Thanks for listening to Component Connection, brought to you by SBCA. If there's a topic you'd like us to explore in a future episode, email us at podcast@sbcacomponents.com. Until next time, stay connected.